This is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister at Imperium Chambers. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you have an immigration problem or you want some advice, please get in touch with me and I'll do my best to help you. It is clear and somewhat sad that Priti Patel has succeeded through the courts in enforcing her Madagascar solution, at least in principle, for removing people from the United Kingdom based in part on their nationality and sex. This is clearly an inhumane policy, not just my view, but quite a lot of people's views, designed to target the most vulnerable in society, people that don't vote. And it is clearly a policy that seems to discriminate against certain groups. To me, it seems rather more reminiscent of the Nazis' idea of sending all the Jews to Madagascar in the 1930s. Rather than actually a proper plan to deal with the broken asylum system. Thankfully, the Madagascar plan never got off the ground due to the fact that the Germans never controlled the sea. As of the timing of this video, and things may change, the Home Office was proposing to remove about 7 or 8 people, I think that's all that's left, to Rwanda at a cost of, it is said, some £500,000, £500,000. Some rational people might think that this is a complete waste of time and precious taxpayers' money, and that the money might be better spent on improving the asylum process in the United Kingdom, employing a few more people, say, and spending the money on more staff and making quicker decisions, as opposed to pandering to the right wing and talking tough, something she likes to do, not only to the public but also to members of her own staff, according to the report that found that she was a bully. To put this into context, we will discuss further the fact that there is an asylum backlog of over 70,000 asylum claims in the UK system who have waited over 6 months for a decision. Put it another way, it would take some 1,000 flights to Rwanda to get rid of this backlog. I'm not really very good at mathematics, but you can only guess at the sums involved. Money that could actually be usefully spent on reforming the system that she has presided over and that has clearly failed. Also, a question that no one wants to ask is why the government is not sending Ukrainians to Rwanda. It's not saying that Ukrainians don't have a valid asylum claim. Their country's been torn apart. Rwanda itself isn't exactly a country best known for its human rights record. This is known or highlighted by the fact that there are a number of Rwandan refugees fleeing the current government. Indeed, it appears that individuals from, say, Afghanistan who missed a flight and had recourse to people smugglers to avoid being killed or harmed by the Taliban might find themselves in the African country while Ukrainians are not. Of course, there is a solution, and one that has been implemented commendably for the Ukrainians. Screen them before they get the chance to come to the United Kingdom. But this, in reality, would mean setting up centres near, obviously not in, because it would be quite dangerous, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria and Eritrea, to name but a few. And it's also worth remembering that the problems in Afghanistan, Iraq and Syria may have been contributed to slightly by the West's interventionism, or rather adventurism. As to the idea that this move will deter people, this is plainly a nonsense, as more people are risking their lives in the Channel every day. And if you were an asylum seeker in Calais and you saw that they were only removing 7 or 8 people per flight, and yet there was a backlog of 70,000 people, you might think you've got a pretty good chance of staying in the UK. Furthermore, it seems to me that it seems to be single men that are being targeted to be for this deportation to the African camps, but not women and children. This rather exposes the most vulnerable people, women and children, who have fled their homes and forces them into the hands of the very people smugglers, which the government say, and I agree, are criminals and quite evil, that the Home Office say they're committed to fighting. So rather than men making the journey, it'll be women and children who are obviously more vulnerable. Perhaps the real reason for trumpeting a flight, which may never in fact take off, is that Priti Patel has been accused of disastrous leadership as the asylum backlog increases yet again. Now, for the truth behind the rhetoric and the huge waste of public money, which is that this scheme is, in my view, just a cover-up, a smokescreen for the utter mess that Priti Patel has presided over whilst leading the Home Office. This can be seen from the figures which I'm going to go into. The number of asylum claims made in the United Kingdom has climbed to its record highest in nearly 2 decades, while the backlog of cases waiting to be determined continues to soar. The latest quarterly figures for 2022 show a backlog of asylum claims waiting an initial decision after more than 6 months, government's target, rose to an unbelievable figure of 73,207. Following this new immigration statistic, Amnesty International has accused Priti Patel of disastrous leadership, perhaps not an unsurprising comment. Understandably, she has failed to cope with the increasing number of outstanding asylum claims. The quarterly statistics published by the Home Office shows that a significant number of asylum claims are still to be determined after 6 months, and that this figure has grown in every single quarter of the current Home Secretary's term of office. And it's worth pausing in that respect. At least one can say that she's been consistent in this, that she's consistently presided over an increase in the asylum backlog. What a triumph for Ms Patel. Historically speaking, the UK's asylum backlog has more than trebled since July 2019. And under the Home Secretary's leadership, having more than 73,000 asylum seekers waiting for a decision on their claims for more than 6 months. I'm not sure. Why isn't Priti Patel trumpeting the fact that she's managed to preside over such a foul system and actually reveal the truth and talk about that in public? Well, the obvious reason is it would be embarrassing. Therefore, it's important, perhaps, maybe not most interesting, but it's highly illuminative, to share an analysis on the statistics of asylum claims with you, just to expose the inefficiency of Priti Patel since she came into power as the Home Secretary. Since she took office, there has been a marked increase in the size of the asylum backlog since then. It is perhaps useful to share the data published by the Home Office representing the gradual increase in the asylum backlog. It doesn't make for particularly good reading, and it certainly doesn't reflect well on Priti Patel's ability or competence. In 2019, the volume of claims awaiting a decision after more than 6 months grew from 12,678 to a total of 29,233. In 2020, the figure grew from 29,233 to 46,796. In 2021, was there a decrease? No, the figure grew to 61,864. Over the first 3 months of 2022 only, the figure's now grown to 73,207. What a success! She clearly knows what she's doing. Or perhaps this was her plan all along. It may sound a bit conspiratorial. Mess the system up so badly and then create this dialogue or this narrative so that they could demonise asylum seekers and appease the right wing with the Rwanda solution. Further to this report published by the Home Office, the director of Amnesty International's UK refugee and migrant rights, Mr. Valdez Simmons, criticised the Home Office by saying as follows, and these are his words, not mine: the Home Secretary's disastrous leadership has run the asylum system into the ground, with the Home Office becoming a byword for backlogs and dysfunction. Priti Patel's failed asylum policies have caused huge delays in the processing of claims, and thousands of people seeking a place of safety have been left in limbo and misery. Because, of course, we all know, and this is my words, that we live within the hostile environment which has become ever more hostile. He goes on to say that rather than taking responsibility for the relatively few asylum claims that the UK actually receives, Priti Patel is deliberately causing delays and backlogs as part of a bid to make life further miserable for refugees following the introduction of Rwanda. Considering the statistical, this is my words again, considering the statistical data I have shared, there is no surprise behind the backlash received by Priti Patel due to her incompetency, and in my view, this has led to a desire to deflect attention from this abject failure by deporting people to camps in Africa. We can simply hope and pray that the correct measures are taken, or the humane measures are taken by the Home Office to accommodate and process the growing number of asylum claims and expediting their outcome. Indeed, it would be far cheaper to actually put the money into actually improving the Home Office rather than shipping 7 or 8 people, if the flight ever gets off the ground, to Rwanda. It's hardly going to be a deterrent. Statistically, if one was looking at it and I was in Calais, I would think the chances of being removed to Rwanda are incredibly small. Sadly, I do not think we will ever see a change in heart from this Secretary of State, given her previous record. I believe she was forced from office for secret meetings that she didn't disclose, and she's also been found to be a bully, even though that report into her bullying was never published by the Prime Minister. Now there's a surprise, or not, as the case may be. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It makes for pretty unpleasant watching. Let's hope that the Home Office sees sense and cancel the flight to Rwanda rather than waste all the money. And let's hope that the review takes place and that a proper system is implemented. Yes, the asylum system is broken, but the way of fixing it is not to be sending 7 or 8 people per flight to a country in the middle of Africa with not the best human rights record, but to actually look at reforming the system from the ground up, implementing and paying more staff to make decisions quicker, so that people that are in fear and have a genuine asylum claim can have their status recognised and can settle and start a new life in the United Kingdom. As I've mentioned, it does seem to be, and I'm not quite sure why, a huge outpouring from the Home Office in respect of helping those fleeing Ukraine, and yet strident talk and action against those that have come from, say, countries such as Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq, countries that all benefited, and I use the word loosely, benefited from the West's involvement over the last 2 decades. Thank you very much for watching. Please stay safe, and if you need any help, please get in touch with me. This is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister at Imperium Chambers.